Now that the cameras are rolling, why are you running faster?
Right? Just all of a sudden,
Yeah.
we both tear our hamstring mid of conversation. So this is something I didn't know. From the sunlight, you know, our body gets all these signals through our eyes. I'll pop down there with you because it's weird up here. We get all these signals through our eyes. We start to produce and manufacture like dopamine, melatonin. But I didn't know that it's trapped. So that light gets like trapped inside your body. And that melatonin doesn't get the right to release
14 hours later.
Well, until you have darkness.
Yep.
So you need darkness. So if you're feeding yourself blue light at night, that could be some of the hazards of blue light. And melatonin is one of the strongest anti-cancer properties that the human body has. And so there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be studied and looked at further, but I was just like, holy shit.
There's a lot of, like Dom will tell you, Dom's got people out of, I don't know if they're out of his lab or where, but we're talking like 200 milligram melatonin suppositories.
Yeah.
That they've used in cancer treatment. And he'll tell you, just remind me that I'll try to remember to ask him.
Yeah.
Because he has a guy that specifically...
Should also have some melatonin up my ass.
I think there's a company, I've never used them. I know it's called, I think, Sandman. And it's like, they're like 100 milligram melatonin suppositories.
Wow.
And it's at such a point where you would think, okay, if 3 milligrams of melatonin makes me sleepy, 200 is going to make me comatose.
Right.
It doesn't
work that way.
It doesn't work that way. Like, there's a tolerable upper limit in your body, and I don't know exactly how it works, but I could kind of hypothesize that maybe...
We're going to try to go this way.
All right, cool.
Let's pay attention here for a second. Okay. And clear.
At least if we get hit, it's on camera.
Yeah. Thomas DeLauer breaks the internet.
Yeah, 17 million
and
views the first
breaks
hour
his leg
when he died. Yeah, so I could maybe hypothesize that, like, maybe whatever is above and beyond your needed amount to trigger sleep. But the body only produces a fraction of a milligram,
right?
Which is what's wild, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and just some other things too, like getting that sunlight the first 3 hours kind of sets up your circadian rhythm.
Yep.
Sets up your day. And trying to get a little sunlight exposure kind of throughout the day can be really important. But I think it's just, if we try to make things make sense at their core, building a callus to running can be substantial for your health. Mm-hmm. Having the ability to be able to handle a 1 mile run at whatever pace you can do and have it not really negatively be a stressor in your life that takes you weeks to recover from is a good idea. Building a little bit of a callus with lifting, or a literal callus on your hands, is a great way to inoculate yourself, get yourself used to the lifting that you're going to do with these cheese grater barbells, you know?
Yep.
And so if we can develop a solar callus, and no matter how pale someone is or how dark they are, it's just about them getting some relationship with the outdoors, mainly, not just the sun. It's just a little relationship. And then what do we know about that when it comes to allergies? It seems like the closer that you get to some of these pollens and stuff like that, and allergens, that you can get yourself to get over that with small exposures over time. Not all the time, not everybody, but in a lot of cases. And so I think sometimes people hear something about, oh, this guy, you know, thinks the sunlight's going to cure someone's cholesterol issues. Well, it may or may not, but still, it's just a healthy practice to get a relationship with the outdoors and with the sun.
It's funny how something that seemed so fringe even 5 years ago to talk about photobiomodulation,
right?
You would almost sound like a lunatic. And then once you learn it, you can't really unlearn it.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course it makes sense that our cells can understand light, that our mitochondria.
Well, look at how sick people are,
Yeah.
and then look at how pale they usually are. They're usually very pale and pasty. Yep. And so you're not able to absorb the same nutrients. You're not able to, I don't know, I just think you're not able to regulate or even have a healthy metabolic system to do some of the things our body's normally designed to do. What's some things you found with red light? So I saw you toying with that.
All my stuff with red light is my sort of my own, I shouldn't say all my stuff, most of my stuff is anecdotal, like how I respond to it, right? You know, if you look at the 600 mil wavelength stuff, there's a lot of literature kind of all over the place with different things, largely positive, but my experience has been 15 to 30 minutes with that light just fucking right on my face. Like, I mean, just put it right there at sunset or closely. So I'll put the kids down to bed, done by 7:30 or so. Between 7:30 and 8 p.m. is usually my time for a little red light and meditation kind of thing.
Interesting.
So I used to just sit in front of that red light and kind of expose my body to it.
Yeah.
And then I realized that really what I was looking for was much more the concentrated kind of melatonin effect. And so I started just putting the little glasses on to protect my eyes a little bit.
Because you're so close.
So close to it. Some will say you don't need them at all.
Yeah.
But again, I kind of listen to the fact that like when I don't have those on, I'm kind of blind to colors afterwards, so something's maybe not good. That has been, I'd say in the last 3 months, the biggest game changer to my sleep.
Right.
I've done a lot of different crap and I toy around. I have crappy sleep, kind of been that way. It's like clockwork if I do that red light right at the right time around when the sun is going down. It's like 90 minutes later, I can't keep my eyes open. It's just, so now I start bringing a little light with me when I travel.
Yeah.
And do the same kind of thing. And I don't care if I look like a weirdo. It's just,
you ever mess with blue light blocking glasses and stuff?
Yeah. And then there's these different forms of like blue light wavelengths that you actually want to be exposed to.
Right.
And they're making lights now.
Well, yeah, because of blue light comes from the sun, but we also get the other 7 spectrums of colors from the sun.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So this company, I want to say it's like XTI or something. They sent me. It's like a $1,200 lamp.
Wow.
You know, and it's like a desk lamp. This is not a paid promo for them. I don't even know much about it other than the literature they sent.
You just got to get it on your butthole.
Spread the legs. So it's designed to just go kind of right on your desk. It's like these little diodes. So I can't really speak to whether that's working a whole lot or not, but their claims are that it can even be used almost as an effective pre-workout. Like it just turns you on. And
I got to admit, Dave Asprey, we've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
You know, I know that sometimes people get mad at certain names.
Dave.
They hear Paul Saladino, or they hear someone that's a good marketer like Dave Asprey, and they're like,
yep. No, I like
but
Dave. Dave's cool.
Dave's been on the front lines of a lot of this stuff for a long time. And he was telling me years ago, he's like, light has the ability to stimulate your nervous system. Got some fans. Stimulate your nervous system and to even make you stronger and stuff like that.
Yep.
Sounds far-fetched. Sounds a little crazy, but
once you it's like once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. It's in your head and you're like, well, wait a minute, light is viable for. So I don't know if I've been placeboing myself into it, but I've been using that light just a little bit before like midday workouts. If I'm normally a little bit I usually like to work out in the morning first thing because that's just my go time. If I train later in the day, I'm a little bit more lackadaisical. So I kind of mess with it. I don't know, man. I feel something. Like I feel more on. I feel more focused. Much more how like.
Is there any other type of light coming from it?
No, it's like 3 different spectrums of blue light.
Okay.
And then they send another bulb with it.
Yeah.
That is a different form of red light.
So I got a interesting contraption going right now. I got red light going here. I have a vitamin D lamp over here, and I have a Fiji lamp over here. And the Fiji lamp gives you UVA UVB. The D lamp is more straight UVB. All of it, which can be somewhat dangerous. Like these things can burn you. And so you have to learn a lot about it. Like UVB, straight UVB by itself is not necessarily a good idea. But when I have the red light on, it's actually helping to protect me a little bit. Let's go down that way.
From what you've been looking at, is there any benefit at all in any, aside from getting tan, to the light that you'd be exposed to in a tanning bed?
Well, I gotta first say, like, I'm a rookie and I don't always say the right things. But the sun, the rays of light that get you tan from the sun, those are partially responsible for the building of your vitamin D as well. So I think, yes, I think, you know, these other lights that I'm using, the Fiji light, along with the vitamin D lamp.
What is the Fiji light? I'm not.
The Fiji light is it's a light that has UVA and UVB rays in it, and it will help with tanning. It will help with some of the vitamin D, but it's also just giving you a little bit different light than what the red light is giving you.
Yeah,
red light, I believe, is most present in the morning, and as the day goes on, it dwindles down. Obviously, the blue light does too, but UVA and UVB, I believe, are the ones that build up mid-morning. So, yeah, the sulfating of cholesterol on your skin and turning it into vitamin D is really powerful. So, a vitamin D lamp could be potentially powerful for a person, but also can be very dangerous for a person that hasn't built a solar callus yet. So they would do like 30 seconds of it. You know what I mean? They would do really low exposure, but they would want to get used to, first of all, it's like get used to the sun if you can. You can also get yourself used to like a Fiji lamp. And some of I have an EMR Tech red light. That sucker's expensive. But the other two lights are, I want to say they're around $1,000. Yeah. Somewhere in that range. So they're pricey, but for somebody that lives in an area where they have a hard time getting, you know, certain amounts of light, it might be a factor for them, might be helpful.
Yeah.
Also, the cold thermogenesis and cold therapy is something that helps the body to produce light within the body, which is an interesting thing. You end up producing UV light rays in your body from cold therapy. And they believe that's why people on the equator were able to survive, because they had the sun. And that's why people in places like Iceland were able to survive, because they had cold.
Huh, that's a good point.
So both are getting some of these mechanisms switched on.
That's interesting.
It's really mind-boggling. I'll send you some podcasts. Dr. Jack Cruz has some really great information, along with my friend, who you should probably have on your show, David Herrera, powerlifter. Yeah. Really sharp guy. A lot of great information in that field. And then, on top of all this is that, so if people want amplifiers of the cold, or they want an amplifier of the sun, or any of this other light therapy that you're using, you can simply eat some foods that have DHA in them. Fish foods, fatty fish, mackerel, herring, oysters, I believe lamb as well, grass-fed beef to a certain extent, fish oil capsules. They just don't do the same thing. They don't have the cofactors in them that the fish do. Let's pop over here onto the road. But so those will help with your solar callus. Those will help you not burn from sunlight, just like they believe seed oils and carbohydrates can make you burn more.
Yep.
Or there's certain drugs that have this kind of photosensitivity when interacted with the sun. DHA and omega-3s can help protect you from the sun. And then in addition to that, the fatty acids can also help you adapt to the cold. And I thought some of this was crap when I was first hearing it, but I just went to Iceland and I just go outside without a jacket and I was like, oh, this feels pretty good. Now it wasn't like insanely cold. It was like 34 degrees.
Yeah,
but I can feel myself getting a little bit more used to the cold, which I think some people think is bad because you're getting used to this like training effect.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good thing because I think your body should be adapted to Mother Nature. I think it just makes sense to me.
In the moment you start to get too good at something, go the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, switch gears.
It's like
Have it be seasonal, right?
like the person that only saunas and never does any cold exposure, or only does cardio and never lifts. Or,
Yeah.
You know, and I think human nature, we tend.
Calves are huge.
He's definitely not talking about me.
I don't know. You got pretty ripped calves.
They're ripped, but
Hey, in the comments below, who are they talking about? Let's see.
I think it's just by contrast.
I did have somebody yell at me, like, which I thought was kind of cool.
Thank you.
I had someone yell at me a few weeks ago. Nice back. I was like, but I'm probably running like this.
Probably. Little ILS going on.
How to run like a bodybuilder.
I don't get compliments when I run. Usually just people yell steroids or something. So, but
You've been running for a long ass time, right? Your mom was a runner?
yeah, my default is running. If I had to give it all up and could only pick one, I'd probably still just run. But that's not exactly on brand, so.
We had Jeremy Miller on our podcast recently. He's a runner, and he's talking about like how he's run a marathon with his heart rate really high the whole time. Like, I want to say it was getting to like 170, 180.
Jeez, what the hell?
I was like, oh my God. You know, I was just explaining to him, like, bro, like that's unhealthy in the opposite direction, you know? So maybe
Wow.
tone that down a little bit. But he was talking about like some of these dark places he goes to for training. And I was kind of kidding, but I also knew it would probably spark conversation. I go, dude, where's your dad? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And he goes, where's my dad? He goes, that's a great question. He's like, I don't really know. And he explained like his dad wasn't really part of his life when he was young. And because when someone goes that hard in something,
Yep.
you're always like, all right, something must have happened
Yeah.
somewhere along the lines here. Because you don't want to do, this guy's going faster than us.
Oh man. Kind of runs like Mose from The Office.
Yeah, he was efficient. He was down here.
Did he tell you what happened with his dad?
Yeah, he basically just said, yeah, his dad wasn't around much. And I think he had some issues with his mom and stuff like that too. And so running was like something that he was good at from the jump, just a little bit better
Yeah.
than some of his friends, made him feel good. And boom, locked in, you know.
Why did you start running? I forgot what the impetus was for that.
So, I mean, part of it is like, I just felt so good one day. I was on a walk, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna run. And literally I ran from like this sign right here to the stop sign. And I was like, oh, that felt pretty good. And I did that intermittently, just did a jog, walk, over and over again. And that felt really good. So then I did it the next day and kind of Forrest Gumped it a little bit. and did it day in and day out for a little while and really enjoyed it. And I remember saying to myself, like, oh, I'll probably never run this full loop or anything. I don't really need to. And the loop I was going on was like 2 or 3 miles. And then one day I ran about half of it and I was like, oh, I should just hang in there. Pretty sure I can make it. And I did. And then it just kind of stuck from there. I had a friend that was a runner. He had all the gear and the clothes, and he looked like a runner. And so I said to him, I was like, how long you been running for? And he's like, oh, I've been running for, let's maybe cross the street, we'll go this way. He's like, I've been running for about 6 months. And I was like, oh, I was like, this whole time I thought you've been running for like years. And he goes, yeah. He goes, actually, I'm getting ready to do a marathon. It's in like 2 months. And I was like, oh, where's it at? He said, in Sacramento. I'm like, I'm going to sign up for it too.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you should. And I got kind of locked into it from there. See, I had this perception though in my head that it was so hard. I had this perception in my mind that like my friend that was telling me about running 8 miles and 10 miles, I had this thought in my head that he was crazy, that he was somehow on a different level genetically or because of he's been working on it for a long time. So I didn't think it was any space for me to mess with until I asked a simple question of like, how long you been doing this for? And he only been doing it for just a little longer than me.
Shit. Yeah, that'll motivate you.
Yeah, so I was like, fuck it. Might as well go all in. Nice to get a little break, a little breather. Do you, with your running, do you mess with any like breathing protocols or anything in particular, or you try to, because you've been running for so long, you just kind of go for it?
I'd be lying if I, didn't say that it just kind of, I just do whatever works. But
yeah.
Now, I've become a little bit more of a heart rate nerd with my running, just because I was kind of like Jeremy, where I would just go run 14, 15 miles and I'd just be at a 160, and I thought that was kind of normal.
Right.
And then I'd be wrecked for 2 days and I'd hurt myself lifting the next day because I just had no function.
I think we can cross now.
So the only way, me being kind of a data nerd anyway, the only way that I could really, the only way that I could get myself to kind of tone it down was if I actually made it a challenge to run as slow as I can, like on my rest days. On my rest days where I'm supposed to be deloading on my running a little bit, like I'm gonna actually try to run as slow as I can without walking.
I like that.
I watched what was happening to my heart rate and I'm like, oh my God, like 115, like I'm like, I could sing a song, I could do whatever. So I'm like, this is kind of cool. After about a week, I was able to run like a 10-minute pace at like that 120.
Nice.
And this adaptation was happening very fast. And then I started paying attention to what was happening in my breathing when I would do that, and vice versa. So my breathing just became sort of a proxy for my heart rate.
I see.
And I started monitoring, well, how do I breathe?
Yeah, you can do it either way, right? Heart rate or breathing.
How do I breathe to get my heart rate down, right?
Yeah. Let's cross here.
Was finding that I could really play and modulate the pace a lot as long as I could manipulate the breathing a little bit.
Right.
But what's interesting is like today, we're running really slow, 10:30, 11 pace, just cruising, really easy. My heart rate is 137, which is high for this speed.
Right.
But it probably is a testament to talking and having an interesting breath, because talking, if I were to just do 5 or 6 good diaphragmatic breaths right now, I could probably get it down to 120.
Right. Plus there's some excitement. You're in a new area.
I'm aroused by you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Arousal through the roof.
Speaking of environment, that's an interesting thing, is the relationship between like sleep, recovery, even when all these other things are in line, but you're simply in a new environment, i.e. a hotel room, or
go this way.
And it's almost like there's this evolutionary biological response to just be a little unrested if you're in a new environment.
To be alert.
Yeah, you're
Right.
like, where am I? Where am I? I heard of something before. I don't know if there's any actual merit to it scientifically or not. But basically, you tend to kind of wake up and check your surroundings at night.
Yeah.
Sometimes even if you're unaware of it. I don't know if it's BS or not, but I've heard a few people mention it. Can't find any literature on it really.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense. You kind of wake up and maybe you're like, you know,
Where the fuck
check
am I?
1, 2, where am I, right?
Yeah.
And if you're in a different environment, perhaps there's a little bit of arousal that comes from that, where you're like, this isn't normal.
Well, we'll say like, even all the way to like the smell of your blanket and pillows gets uniform to you, you know? So like some athletes, they bring some of their shit with them so that those things aren't different when they travel. But also I heard the same thing, and I heard this Matthew Walker basically saying you're like half asleep.
Yep.
When you're in a hotel, you get like half a night's worth of sleep.
Yeah.
And maybe the next day it's like quarter, so it doesn't continue on.
That's what I've noticed is the third night in a hotel room is when I finally sleep.
Yeah.
So but like interesting, last night I slept like a rock, what I thought, right?
That's great.
But what was interesting was that, get this, I got 4 hours of deep sleep and only 45 minutes of REM.
Wow.
So it's like, how do I explain that, right? Like,
Yeah.
my wave patterns were whacked out, but my deep sleep. Here's another tangential thing. What about, I think that there is some evolutionary reason as to why we get the most restorative deep sleep for our physical body in the first few hours. Because in a survival
Going
mode,
here.
we're gonna run to the track.
We're gonna run around this perimeter. It's kind of nice. Oh yeah, football.
Man,
Let's show these guys that we can still play. Break out the boobs.
oh, we gotta do this? All right. Hang on.
Like, hey, those guys can play probably. Then we go and tear our
They don't want to see
Achilles.
that.
So you were saying? You remember where you're at?
Yeah, if you're only gonna get a few hours of sleep for whatever reason,
Yeah.
it would make sense that your body wants at least the physical body to sort of recover.
Yeah.
And that even though one could argue our brains are our more keen survival tool as humans, I think our physical body is probably might take priority as far as just simple ability to
Yeah.
tackle something and eat it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. So it's sort of my rule that it gives me a lot of peace when I know that I might have a short night of sleep, where I'm
Yeah.
just saying, you know what? Worst case, if I just get 4 or 5 hours, but interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're playing our song. 4 or 5 hours on the front end. That's kind of my thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
I will accept waking up at 2 a.m., not
Right.
being able to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
But if I slept really solid from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., I at least. But then it begs the question, you know, how much of it is, like, as Angela Duckworth would sort of put it, like our perception of it. Like,
Yeah, right.
if we got 4 hours of really good deep sleep and we wake up at 2 a.m., we're like, our perception is, hell yeah, 4 hours of solid sleep.
Right.
I'm ready to take on the day. Or is our perception,
Fuck, I only got 4 hours.
I only got half of what I'm supposed to
Yeah.
get. How does that dictate the rest of your day?
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of these wearables are cursed in some way, you know? They really can be. Overemphasis on them. But I think I've heard something that basically said every hour past maybe like, I want to say like 10 o'clock that you go to bed, or I'm sorry, every hour before 11 o'clock, I think it was. Every hour you go to bed before 11 o'clock, it counts as almost 2 hours of sleep.
I have heard that. Yep.
So I'd have to look that up again, or
Yeah.
people listening, you might want to look that up. I might have screwed some of that up, but anyway, the point is like, get to fucking bed. Get your phone away from you.
I have heard that. It's what I use to get my wife into bed earlier sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you think about chronotypes? People that are night owls versus,
Yeah, super interesting.
yeah. There's definitely something there, right? I mean, it's,
Oh yeah, I think so. I think there's people that have like a natural propensity to be able to handle certain things, like be able to handle the cold better than the heat. There's people that can probably sleep less than somebody else. There's probably people that can tolerate carbohydrates easier than another person. And it could be all kinds of reasons attached to it. Could be environment, could be genetics, could be a combination. So yeah, I definitely think there's something to a lot of that stuff. For me personally, I just like to kind of track stuff and look at it and try to have some sort of measurable where I can say, you know what, that's improving. I kind of dig that. So I'm not too huge into data, but at the same time, I need something recorded or measured. Otherwise, I don't know what to pivot off of, you know?
yeah, you need at least one point.
It can't really just be like, oh, I feel better. Like I need a little bit more, a little bit more evidence than just that. It could be like, holy shit, I ran 8 miles every day for the last 6 days in a row. Where'd that come from?
Yep.
You know, and that could be something I'm messing with my sleep. Or it could be something I've been messing with in training for the last, couple weeks or something.
There's it's kind of dodgy rodent model stuff, but I've always found it interesting that PPAR, PPAR alpha, which is a nuclear receptor protein that it goes to the nucleus of a cell to sort of program for fat adaptation. So with a myriad of different things, but most notably in the world of fasting and low carbs, right? What was really interesting to find out is that in rodents, when PPAR was activated, it promoted wakefulness and allowed the rodents to have a significantly lower need for sleep.
Wow.
With the same amount of arousal and wakefulness. So they basically, they could sleep 30 or 40% less and have the same amount of brain energetics the next day if PPAR was activated, which kind of goes in line with my anecdotal experiences where, like, you know how when people do keto, they tend to say like, oh, I have trouble sleeping, like I sleep for 4 or 5 hours and then I wake up.
Yeah.
Which was me. Now I'm starting to wonder if that's just when their body says you're good.
Yeah.
So
it's all you need because you're more efficient.
Yep. Again, that's just purely connecting dots on mechanistic data, so we can't take it to the bank.
Yeah.
But it sure as fuck add up to me.
I have heard that people sleep like for 4 hours at a time, sleep 4 hours, maybe up for 2 and sleep another 4 at some other point. I've heard of different things like that. And it would make sense that like sometimes you just would skip the second 4 hours,
Yep.
Like if you felt good, you just needed to be up.
Do you know Josh Bomar?
Nope, I don't think so.
Bomar, he owns Bomar Nutrition. Also, I don't know if you've ever seen Apex beef sticks.
Yeah, I think so.
So he owns them. He's a phenomenal, like world-renowned bow hunter, but he's jacked out of his mind.
Oh, cool.
And he's just,
oh, we got some on the curb.
He's first of all, super solid human being. I don't even know if he's the kind that likes to go on podcasts and stuff, but he'd be a great person to have.
Oh, cool.
Just because he's just, the dude will run on like 3 or 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
He'll get up, he'll lift for a couple hours or whatever. Then he'll run a couple miles at a 5-minute pace, and then he'll go work on his farm for a 9-hour day.
Yeah.
And then he's running, you know, a couple $20-30 million a year businesses.
Damn.
The guy is just, all while being just a stand-up solid dude. But he goes on all these crazy, he gets contracted by governments to go and bow hunt certain animals that are like terrorizing communities. Like he just
Oh, wow.
got this crazy, I want to say it was like a 18 or 17 foot crocodile.
Wow.
That was like eating children and stuff.
Holy
and
shit.
he, but the reason I'm even bringing him up is like his heart rate variability will be like a 16, 17,
wow.
But he's just like, I feel freaking great. And like, he always is this anomaly in my mind of like someone that is just like, his perception is, I'm good.
Right.
Like, but Josh, I hope you don't keel over dead. But it's just impressive, right? Like,
Yep.
So it just makes me wonder how much of these, my God, he doesn't sit there and think about, I'm a tough guy.
Right.
I'm going to push harder.
Yep.
He just does.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no other option.
Well,
He
it probably also doesn't feel that hard to him.
Yeah.
So he's just going.
That's a good point.
I'm a big believer in a lot of that too. And my perspective and vantage point on stuff, like I don't really view things as being that hard. Not because I'm really good at them or gifted or even I developed a skill set. It's just that I think in order to cause change, I don't think you need to go nearly as hard as what people think. It does need to be, it does occasionally need to be new, different, novel, increased percentage. But look, benching 235 when you did 225 last week is not hard. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's exponentially more challenging by a mathematical percentage, but it's really not. It's not anything to be too scared over. And what I learned from lifting and in running, the modest percentages over 50% are the ones that are going to get you there.
Yep.
And they're probably usually below 85%.
True.
And so it's like, what the fuck are you freaking out for? Like, why do you have so much angst over performing something repeatedly at 70%?
Yep.
Because you can get really magnificent results just off of that, you know? So,
You know, last night, my father-in-law lives in Fairfield. So
yeah.
I hung out and I watched the Daytona 500 with him. Yes, I'm a redneck. And you know what, something crossed my mind when they were showing their current speed and their throttle percentage.
Yeah.
So, okay, cruising down the straights at Daytona, 54% throttle, and they're going 178 miles per hour. Front of the pack. 100% throttle, they're going 183. And it just clicked. Talk about minimum effective dose, right?
Yeah.
And it was all an economy of fuel thing.
Yeah.
Where they would find, how do we determine what the minimum throttle that we can use while still having the maximum speed to that ratio, right?
Right.
And talk about an aha moment for me, where I'm like, this is so clearly seen, you know. And then you're talking less than a 10 mile per hour difference with arguably 40% less fuel use.
Shit.
Right? How far off are we from that?
Right. Well, if you look at it this way, it's like, do someone like yourself or someone like me, do we still feel a need, like a real need, a really strong pull to eat junk food often?
I don't know. Some food truck.
Oh yeah.
Perfect timing, huh? You want to get some
And
fried Hawaiian chicken right there?
And the answer is no. Because if we did, we'd still be fat.
That's true.
And that urge is there. And there are some cool things that, like, associated with relaxing and eating some of those foods and all that. But we've optimized our body, and our body has a craving to do more of this. You know, to do this, to lift, to eat the healthy food, even when we're on vacation or even when we're traveling, because we know the reward. because we felt it already. And then so can you extrapolate that out and have that make sense everywhere else? I think so.
Yeah, for sure.
Do I need the same amount of sleep as a guy that's 280 and pale that stays inside all day? You know, and I know, if we told that guy, hey man, here's a key diet plan for you, and he looked at it, he'd probably immediately say, I can't do that. Because he literally feels like he can't do it.
Yeah.
Because he still feels such a strong pull to those junk foods. He'd say, I'm Italian, I can't cut out pasta, or he'd have some sort of thing he would throw in there.
He's pale and Italian?
Well, yeah, now we're getting some good combinations, right? But, and I think, you know, for some of these teenage kids that spend a lot of time in the room playing video games, they're not really getting outside much, and people like my kid sleeps all day. It's like, well, your kid feels driven. Your kid feels the need to sleep like that. If your kid got into a habit over a period of time of waking up at a more reasonable hour, getting some work done, getting some rest, going back and forth between these things over the course of a few years, they would feel like they had a lot more energy.
Yep.
So I think we look at energy the wrong way. We think energy pretty much only comes from food, and it's only from macronutrients, and that's not really true. The sun gives us energy. The sun can help your mitochondria, can help you to produce more ATP. Like, there's all kinds of things like that where, yes, you need food at some point, but your body can still drive the metabolism without the kind of food that we're thinking about.
Yes.
Because your body produces its own water. I mean, your body produces all kinds of stuff, and it will pull and take from different spots in accordance to, I mean, I think it was Wim Hof. He did some of that those cold excursions with no food.
Yep.
I think he had water and some salt or something like that, but I don't think he did it with any food. And I mean, that's not proof necessarily, but it does show you that you can spin up your energy.
Yeah, for sure.
And make the energy that your body has way more efficient.
I'll still have my
And so that's why I always get a little frustrated with some of the calorie stuff.
That was going to be my question to you.
Yeah, 250 calories for one person just isn't the same for another.
Of equal weight, equal muscle mass too. Like
Right.
I am a believer that that kind of runs like you.
Yeah.
You know, if you and I were both 200 pounds, same body fat, same amount of muscle,
Yeah.
but maybe it's displaced in different places. I have chicken legs, you don't, you know, but I'm way sexier up top than you. These kinds of things, that might make a difference, right?
Yeah, right.
So, but I guess my point in saying that is, if you had to put a percentage on it, what percent thermodynamics do you think matters? Is it 90%? This is obviously completely hypothetical, but
Right.
40%?
We'll go straight
Mixed-
here.
Mixed bag, changing up, you know?
I think you're good. Well, I would have to kind of honestly say that if you put somebody on a pretty good restrictive, you know, caloric intake, and they have a decent amount of protein, that they are going to be able to lose body fat probably fairly rapidly, but they need to be encouraged to lose body fat daily for a long period of time. And so therefore, you actually need a certain caloric load for that.
Yep.
Or the energy's got to come from somewhere. So you have to do things that encourage your body to produce more energy, such as going on a run, going on a walk, meditating,
I think what you're referring to
taking
is
a nap.
G-flux, right?
Yeah, right.
Energy flux.
Right, exactly.
There's a mobilization cost with
Yeah, there certainly
calorie loads, right? So
there certainly can be.
think about, okay, if you eat 5,000 calories per day and you burn 5,000 calories per day, and I eat 7,000 calories per day and burn 7,000 calories per day, to the naked eye, calorie in, calories out, you'd say,
Right.
well, you guys are both at net zero.
Right.
Incorrect. There's an energy cost with me eating more
Right.
and moving more.
Right.
And that's the G-flux piece, where the more you eat and the more you move, the better. If you could, you know, to an extent, right? I'm sure if we wolfed down 15,000 calories and expended 15,000 calories, there'd be a level of oxidative stress.
There's a curve. You start to eat way too much and you start to get lethargic.
Well, it's just the oxidative stress alone of that much overall oxidation, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a sweet spot, but I've been experimenting with, okay, I'm just gonna
go this way.
Eat as much.
Watch the bike.
Meat, sweet potatoes, fruit, but really just as much meat and eggs as I really want. Not as I can, but as I really want.
I'll go this way.
And then, you know, and per the sort of guidance of Dr. Tommy Wood, who, if you haven't had on your show, you need to have, you know, basically he said, do that until you gain a pound of fat.
Right.
And that's how you know when to back it down. So I did that, and I couldn't for the life of me gain a pound of fat. All I did was get leaner and stronger. And I'm like, okay, I guess it's gonna be 8 eggs this morning.
Well, what you'll find with stuff like that is that you'll be in the gym and you'll go to do something, and then you immediately increase the challenge. You know, because it's almost like, it's like the difference of working out without music and with music. You know, without music, it's kind of like, can be kind of dull.
Yep.
But maybe a little caffeine, maybe a little music, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Now you're feeling good.
Amen, yeah.
And the same thing with your food. You get the food right and you feel great, but also if you get the food, sometimes like a bodybuilder, they might do way too much for certain reasons, you know, but they also might get lethargic.
Yeah.
And maybe not feel as good. So you got to kind of like, you got to try to balance that out and find sort of the right way to approach it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, back to the question of, we know that you can lose weight without exercise, you know, but it doesn't appear that you can lose like reasonable amounts of weight without making some adjustment to the food that you're eating, whether it's the type of foods, sometimes it's the types of foods, and the types of foods could lower your overall calories, or whether you're getting into like protein leveraging or something along those lines. They're all things that are going to help you manage the overall amount of calories you're taking in. And so I think the overarching theme of like, it does matter how much you eat, I think is important, but I think we need to, I think you can bypass that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You can bypass that with training and food selection. So if you don't want to give a fuck about counting your calories, if you eat a lot of natural foods, single ingredient foods, and things of that nature, there's really not a lot of reasons to count the good, natural, healthy foods. Where I think the tracking stuff came into play years ago, if it fits your macros and stuff like that, I think they did something really interesting with that, where most of the time when people would track calories, they would discontinue tracking when they had a binge, right? But if it fits your macros, and the people in that camp, they actually did track those things. And I think that is really effective. And I would say that if you are gonna like really worry much about calories in, the only thing that I would really take a little bit of a look at and be real thoughtful of would be processed foods.
Yeah.
When I'm gonna make a decision to drink alcohol and have processed foods, that's where there's gonna be an audit. That's where there's gonna be an evaluation. Otherwise, what the fuck am I auditing? Why am I spending so much time worried about this? These foods that are great for my body, that are only going to give me more They're only going to give me more energy.
So
They're
true.
only going to help me do more of what I want to do. Let's go. Oh, there we go. Excuse me.
Are you familiar with that journal nutrient study, National, Institute of Aging study, that Herculean friggin' study that on the rhesus monkeys of Bethesda, Maryland versus Madison, Wisconsin? You familiar with that study?
Not too much, no.
This will blow your mind. Some people will say it's monkeys, but I released a video on my channel because I found it was so interesting because Paul Saladino and Peter Attia,
okay. I am a little familiar with this, yeah.
on two different interviews in completely different context reference the same study as being a very solid study that tells us a lot, right? Two people that arguably, I don't want to say have opposing views, but definitely different views. I love this study because it'll never, ever, ever be replicated again because the amount of money they put into it for really just something that probably didn't get them much of what they wanted.
Right.
So Madison, Wisconsin, I think 26 years or something like that, maybe 16 years, they gave monkeys straight up monkey chow.
Monkey chow.
So the Wisconsin rhesus monkeys had them consume monkey chow, regular caloric deficit,
Yeah.
where they monitor their calories, put them in a deficit, yada yada. Bethesda, Maryland, the rhesus monkeys, they gave them a diet that largely emulated what they would eat in the wild. And with this, they monitored longevity, right? And how their lifespan. The monkeys that ate the whole food diet did not have any additional impact on longevity by restricting calories.
Wow.
However, the monkeys that were eating garbage, monkey chow, they did see a significant benefit from reducing calories. And I think what it illustrates is that calories really do matter, of course, but they matter much more when your diet is not good. And yeah, it's monkeys, but still
Monkey business.
some interesting stuff.
Yeah. That's cool. I think findings like that can be important sometimes.
Well, I mean, it really confirms a lot of like what we think, right? That like we know calories matter. Like, of course calories matter, but who are we kidding? Of course there's other things going on, you know? Like efficiency, economy of scale with our nutrition. Like what is, like when our cells are more efficient at utilizing fuel.
Well, also too, it might be interesting to learn, like what were those monkeys like? What were they doing and where were they? Like, were they in like a zoo type thing? You know, was that quantified for? Was that? Yeah,
that's the thing.
Did they talk about like, hey, these monkeys are outside and these other monkeys are inside, you know?
That's where there's definitely a lot of questions that come up, like,
right.
You know, exposure to illness, you know, whatnot. But let's pretend for a second that that was the case. You know, if they were exposed to real environment, wouldn't it only further the case for a more nutrient-dense diet? Because then you've got a nutrient-sparse diet plus the stress of a caloric deficit, and then you're going to expose them to illness. I would actually argue that that would have actually increased the delta between the two.
Right.
So, but again, it's monkey business.
Yeah, I think that, you know, my friend Joel Green, he calls it baby talk. And I think that anybody in our industry, when they're not considerate of the whole picture, it's baby talk.
Yep.
Like if you're going to say that disease is caused by calories in, calories out, and just be mad about it and not listen to anybody say anything else, I think that's baby talk.
It is, yeah.
And I think it's not a fair assessment. And at the same time, if you say, look, keto's the answer to all our prayers, you don't need to count calories, fuck all these people, I think that's baby talk. People have to kind of be humble, and they got to zoom out and take a look at the overall giant picture and realize that me and Thomas DeLauer who have made millions of dollars in the fitness space. The shit that we're talking about is almost completely irrelevant to the guy that can't stop drinking his Coors Light, who lives in Mississippi, you know, and we might not even have relatable information to them. As relatable as we work on trying to be, we're so far removed from that kid that started their fitness journey, or to like when we were fat, you know, so we think that we are, and we think we can speak the language because we were fat, but we also didn't have, like, there's a lot of circumstances that people are working through and working around. And for us to pretend that we have all the answers to that is, we're a little arrogant sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
And we have to have, we need to continue to develop more tools to help more people, is the way I kind of look at it. And so the more open-minded we can be, the better. Yeah, keto can be a good strategy, or lower fat could be a good strategy. I think right now, what you and I landed on, and I think the truth of it is, the ugly truth of it is, we're on a low-fat, low-carb diet.
If you want to get shredded fast,
you know what I mean?
That's kind of what works.
Yeah. And it's, I don't want to say like low-fat, because I know that no. You and I are both smart enough to like not go so low on it that it messes our hormones up and all these other things. But you get into like under 100 grams of fats a day, under 80, maybe under 60 or so, and that's kind of a good place to be fucking lean.
Yep.
Under about 60 grams of fat, probably under about the same amount of carbs.
Yep.
And just eating the shit out of protein. Who cares?
Somewhat unlimited protein, really.
Right.
What do you think of that new nutrient study that came out in December on the no upper limit to protein in a sitting? You heard about that one?
I haven't. Give me some info. I mean, this is what I've felt for a long time, is that you can eat protein nonstop. It's a freebie, calorie-wise.
Remind me to bring this up when we're officially potting too, because it's a good study to talk about. And if you want to talk about clicks, I think this one did like 200,000 views in the first 24 hours. Just
wow.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But it's a good study. They isotope labeled protein. They had subjects consume either 25 grams up to 100 grams of protein post-workout. And then they monitored muscle protein synthesis based on where the aminos actually went. And at first they saw, quote unquote, the aminos disappeared out of the bloodstream in the 100 gram group over the course of 12 hours. And they're saying, so people at first were speculative and said, well, they could have just been oxidized and not actually utilized. But because they labeled radioisotope, they saw that leucine was going into the muscle, activating muscle protein synthesis for almost all accounted for digested protein.
Wow.
For a 12-hour period.
Holy shit.
The caveat is that although all 100 grams essentially were utilized for the most part, they were utilized over 12 hours.
Yeah.
So what that tells us, though, is that we could sit down and have 100 grams of protein.
Right.
We're not going to absorb it all right now, but we are going to absorb it.
Right. It's going to be like a rate limiting factor on the amino acid profile, right? So
for those that maybe do OMAD or fast, the study also concluded that they believe there might be no upper limit. Like that this could go 200 grams, but it might take 16 hours.
Right.
So the point is like, talk about giving you some slack to just say, all right, I finished my workout, I'm gonna eat 3 steaks, and then I don't feel like eating the rest of the day.
Right.
Like, you're fine, you're good, you know. Yeah. Now, I brought this up with Mike Israel because what the caveat with the study is also that they used a milk protein, which obviously is casein.
Gonna last longer.
What would happen if you consumed 150 grams of straight whey?
Right.
You know, then, so what I've concluded with this is that my post-workout meal has now changed to being instead of just maybe some whey protein and a little fruit or something, I'll actually do 25 to 30 grams of whey, or I'll even use your steak shake.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah. And then I'll also,
all roads lead back to the steak shake.
and I'll have it along with some ground beef, like super 96% lean ground beef, for about another 60 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So I'm talking 85 grams of protein.
But
25.
why would anybody listen to you? You're so fat.
I'm just on roids.
Oh, you're on roids too?
Yeah.
Fucking knew it. I knew it. I'm always the last to know.
I am on a lot of peptides right now, though. I'm having some fun with the peptides.
Yeah? Do you think they're making a big difference?
Nope.
I've never noticed. I mean, we're sitting here, we're both super jacked. I've never noticed a big difference with peptides either.
Nah. I notice a little
I
something.
do like carnitine though.
Carnitine. Isn't that the one that gets you kicked off of YouTube?
Yeah, I think so. That was Amino Asylum. Bleep.
No, but the one that I have noticed something unique from outside of BBC 157, I've noticed I had a shoulder thing that did heal up in about a week with that. There's something there. But I've been messing around with one called Synapsin.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah,
It's a nasal spray.
Yeah.
I use it on days when
It has cocaine in it, right?
it's a nicotinamide ribose and methylcobalamin, but close. Interesting. So it clears up brain fog for me, like that.
Nice.
So like if I'm sleep deprived or anything like that, you know, just a couple sprays.
Yeah.
Within about 20 minutes, I'm like fired up. The downside is it's supposed to lose its effectiveness a lot if it's not refrigerated. So it makes it really hard to travel with.
Right.
So, because from
You
what
just
I
put it right next to your growth hormone.
oh shit, that's supposed to be refrigerated? No, shit.
God damn. All this stuff's so complicated. I need a shot for this, a shot for that.
Yeah.
How are your kids doing?
They're amazing, man.
You still have the same amount? Same amount of
Last I
kids?
checked,
Yeah, that's good. Head count.
I don't keep tabs on, you know, Mr. Children from, you know, other zip codes and stuff, but
All right.
yeah, just changed my name.
Everybody doing good?
Yeah, everyone's doing really good. They learned how to give themselves hickeys, and that's been interesting. And like, we're in the coffee shop, and Tommy says, "Hey, Dad, check this out." And he and Emma, my daughter, you know, 6 and 4 years old, they're just sucking on each other's arms. I'm like, oh crap. But
Yeah, there's not many of us out there. There's not many, like, there's people in the fitness space, and unfortunately, a lot of them are divorced and they're not with their kids, or these various situations, that predicaments some people have gotten into. But, you know, I know for you, you're real close to your family and it's a priority. You know, usually when I'm texting you, it's like, there's usually something mindful of, oh, I'm going to do this with my wife and kids, or like we still talk meathead talk back and forth, but I've always appreciated that about you, and it's for me it's motivating, you know, to have other friends that are dads, and they're just as passionate about that as they are everything else they do, you know.
it is, I would give it all up for my kids, man. And I'm learning so much from my
They teach you a lot.
she's almost 4, my daughter, and man, I've learned so much just about my own emotions, how I react to things by seeing it through her lens. And I've learned so much about my wife,
Yeah.
because you realize, if my wife reacts
Yeah.
to something, there's a prefrontal cortex adult maturity that covers it up in certain ways. With my daughter, it's just raw,
Yeah.
but you realize real quick the similarities, and it's helped me to love my wife better. And then I've learned so much about myself through my son.
Right.
My practical episodes of going obsessive with things, and I'm like, all right, I'm not cray cray.
Right.
This is just, we're just wired this way, you know.
Yeah.
And a cool thing did happen. I'll send you the clip, because I snuck a snuck a video of it. I bring my son to the gym with me, my studio, and he, you know, a lot of times like when I'm working out, he'll make an obstacle course or do something active. But he's 6, and the other day I'm doing something, and I catch out of the corner of my eye, he's grabbed a pair of dumbbells and he's just doing incline press. Unprompted, he's just doing it. I'm like, oh my God, I grab my phone, I sneak a little video of him, and then he goes over and he grabs my trap bar, and he assumes a perfect position, and he tries to pick it up. And,
All right.
and I'm like, Tommy, what are you doing? And he goes, because I just want to be as fast as you. And it was the coolest thing for me because I made a promise to myself that I wasn't going to ever force anything on him.
Yeah.
But I think just by him being there with me,
That's
seeing
great.
that I enjoy it, seeing him pick up those dumbbells and just going for it with a smile on his face, it's like, holy shit.
That's great.
This is so cool.
Yeah, I think a good thing to teach your kids too is just that, hey, this is a skill set, you know? It's a nice skill. If you develop it, you can manage your body weight easily. And it's something you can pass on to your own children someday.
Yep, precisely.
All right, we made it back.
7.3.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a little more than we.
not bad.
Now we can make Dom feel lazy.
I think I started it when we did the first
Oh,
part,
that's right.
So I'm at 7.7.
I've got 7.3 for when we started, but
Yep,
Who
the
knows?
second time.
I'm using a different satellite than you.
Well, you just have from, remember we ran for a little bit and then came back?
Yeah.
It's like, oh fuck, we forgot about Ryan.